Yo-yo string. Yo-yo string. There are so many different types of yo-yo string. How big of a deal is string when you're choosing what to put on your yo-yo to pack around with you? Well, from my perspective, which is one person's perspective, really the most important thing is what works for you and what you're used to, because you can kind of adapt to just about anything. There is objectively some strings that are better than others, and there are generally noticeable differences between bulk, mass-produced string and handmade boutique string. But the question of what do you need is harder to answer. When I started, Yoyo G-Strings was the main boutique brand, and then there were a lot of bulk strings from Yo-Yo Factory and whatnot. And I spent way more money than I should have on G-String because, well, beginners think the equipment's going to make you better, and it's not. Practice is going to make you better. So when it comes to strings, I generally choose them based on the yo-yo I'm using. If I'm using something with a narrower gap, I want a thinner string. Wider gap, might want a thicker string. If I'm doing a lot of practicing slack tricks, I'll choose a thicker, heavier string that will whip more easily, just to be to be kind to my shoulder injury. I use some boutique string here and there, but generally don't spend much money on string because I prefer to have a fresh string all the time. And so inexpensive string that I can throw a new one on every day is a lot better for me than a string that I spent $1.50 on the one string and kind of feel like I should be using it for a few weeks at that price. But yeah, it comes to preference. I once knew a guy that he had the same string on his yo-yo for a year. He just kept moving it from yo-yo. He kept using the same string. He'd go around at club meets and he'd pick up the strings other people threw on the ground and he'd take them home and use them because he didn't care. The strings worked just fine for him. I think what it comes down to is whether you are going to choose to use new strings all the time, so you've got that new string bounce and the feel of the string before the polyester starts to fuse, or if you prefer to work a string in to the point where the thread kind of loses its stretch and has that consistent feel. You'll notice if you play with a yo-yo string for a long time, when you give your yo-yo a spin and have a look at it, it's hard to pull apart, and that's, I think, because the polyester actually kind of melts to itself just a little bit, which I think will give you a more consistent tension management. But I don't know, it's all some sort of chaotic magic. So long story short, I have no answers. Strings are confusing. Pick one you like and run with it. If you feel like supporting a brand, do that. Have a good one. Thanks for listening.